as it's been recording the whole time.
Maybe it needed something.
Apparently so. I guess we go start here. As you can see, I was talking to a friend. Oh, I don't know. This is going to be a little bit unhinged. Hey, everybody. It's the Devious Monk. I have questions about some things. In contingent, I hope that you saw it well. The last episode that I did, where I talked about the Catholic Church and this movie that I had come across called Insight, where they were investigating the Catholic Church and the Catholic Church's sexual abuse allegations specifically against children, and how many thousands of priests I had found when I looked online, specifically in New York City. They keep a database of them, and I'm curious as to, it brought the question to me, to my mind. It begged the question, actually, why do we require children to have such, why do we require children to go through religious rituals so early? A child can't make a decision when they're a baby about any type of religious anything. So why do they need to be baptized? Does a child actually understand what confirmation is when they go through confirmation in church?
Why do we feel the making the decision,
The need to push them
to make the decision for them?
Yeah, we push that on them.
Yeah.
We push it on them. Christenings.
Yeah. You're telling them what they're going to be.
You're
instead
making
of
them
allowing them to find their way.
And it's to me, it just looks like a system that wants to claim your children really early. From very, very early, they want to claim your children. And you have to ask yourself, why? Why is it so important that a human being that can't make a decision about any of this stuff that we're talking about be given over to them? Because remember, when you got baptized, not baptized, when you got christened, that was like a birth certificate. You used to be able to take that like an ID and go places, and that was one of the things that they used to be able to use as identification. If it's that deep, why do they need your children? You have to ask this, especially in light of what they do with children. Why do they have to have children participate in the services? Why do you need altar boys? Why do you need little boys who really parade around in, you call them robes, they're dresses. You have little boys dressed in dresses going around the church. For what? Why is that necessary? I would really like y'all to ask these questions of yourselves. If you're taking your children through this, you really need to understand what is happening here. Why do the children need to be involved in that? The indoctrination from that early on gives you a sense of right. They want you to feel that this particular belief is the belief that is the right belief. Because what they then do is they use you as an army as a soldier in their army to further their plight, to push their propaganda. Once they have indoctrinated you, now you are one of the people who go around spewing this stuff. I remember there was a show years ago, the talk show, I think it was Sally Jesse Raphael, and she had young kids on there that were ministers and preachers. And we're talking 5 and 6 years old. And they're spitting out verses from the Bible and they're saying all this. So they asked one of the children a question that required thinking. And the child, of course, didn't have any type of mental frame to answer this particular question. I forgot what the question was specifically. I think it had to do with purgatory and what do you think about children who, like if a child dies, should they go to hell, something like that. Something that requires some critical thinking skills. And these kids were stumped because their parents had just pushed them into memorizing chapter and verse over and over. Now you have a slave. You have somebody who is going to push this for you. And I don't think we look enough at the information that we take in and whose agenda it is when we memorize this information. Here's the thing that I've been toying with this thought, and if it doesn't come out completely, somebody please let me know. It has to do with the idea of belief. A belief is something that a person holds within them. It is in their mind. It is usually culminated from the experiences that they have had in their life. If you come from a religious family, of course, you have religious framework in your mind, and your belief system has to do with religion and things like that, even if it's Christian, Judaism, whatever. This belief is so personal. Nobody will know if you never tell them. Nobody can see your beliefs on the outside. So why is it so important to espouse them? Why is it so important that people agree with what you think about whatever? About God, about heaven, about hell, about the universe, about the Bible. Why is it important to commiserate with other people who believe? Because we're talking about things that nobody has any evidence for either way. Nobody can prove or disprove any of the stuff that we're talking about. It is a belief. Something that we think we know, but really don't. That's what believe means. Believe means I don't know. Because anything you know, you don't go saying I believe in front of it.
You just said something. You can edit off.
Yeah, we really have to check the framework of what we call belief and what the things that we do around belief. Because belief has been one of the things that people kill for. Throughout history, people kill for their beliefs, things that they can't prove either way, things that they have just collected in their mind as a result of their experiences, and they have commiserated with other people, and now it is a gang, basically, of people coming together who say that we believe these things, so they must be right. We have the numbers, so we have some claim to truth. And none of that is correct.
More people have died in the name of religion than anything else.
Yeah, more people have. That's people use God as a claim to claim things on the earth, to claim land, to claim resources, to claim power, to claim anything. That's what they use, God. They use religion. Religion was at one time so intermeshed with the state. That's why in the United States, when they came over here, they were like, look, we have to separate the church and state thing. People can believe whatever it is they want, but it should not interfere with the fact that everybody gets, the same rights across the board, regardless of their beliefs. And we are ignoring that right now. Why do you need somebody to commiserate with you on what you believe when nobody can prove any of these things? They have us locked into ideas that we will never, ever experience. So many of us are walking around here thinking about a heaven and a hell that we are no earthly good. What do you do? Well, you have no concept of it. You have no experience of it. I hear people say, well, God did this and God did that. You think he did that. You believe he did that. That's what you would like to, that's how you would like to understand things as they happen. You want to believe that God did this for you. You have no proof. That's like me saying, you need to thank me for getting all the alligators out of the sewer. I have no proof that I got all the alligators out of the sewer, but you can't prove that I didn't. I do know if you go down in the sewer right now, you won't see alligators. You're welcome. We use flimsy logic like that. Flimsy. And here's the thing. What does it matter? We are so locked into this belief system thing, and so what we believe, that we don't get to do. We're so stuck in belief that we don't do. All the stuff and the beliefs, as I was having this conversation with my friend, reminded me that the beliefs that you inherit are from somebody else's. They're actually somebody else's thoughts and their experiences that they have now passed on to you, and you have now internalized what somebody else didn't even know. They never came up with a concrete answer to what it is, but they passed it on to you as if it were truth. And here we are. We are still believing in things without asking for proof, which is how the government does the way it does in these United States. I'm not even going to go into that. I don't want to be too political. I'm trying to stay in the framework of we need to ask more questions and be more critical in our thinking and stop allowing people to give us beliefs and understandings that don't belong to us, that we haven't challenged, we haven't talked about. There's no proof of. They did a dangerous thing, and when I say they, if you saw the last video, you know who they are. Did a dangerous thing for us. Well, we took it on, and we still take it on. This thing called faith. Yeah, faith is a dangerous thing because we use it incorrectly. We use faith incorrectly almost all the time. Faith, as any Christian or person of faith will tell you, is evidence of things not seen. Why would you want to believe in something that you don't have evidence of? Why? Why? Who does that serve? Who does it benefit for you to accept something that you have no proof of? Except people who want to take things from you. People who want to rule over you. It makes no sense that we don't ask these questions. We should demand proof for everything. These are people who, we live in a country where they feed us poison in our food in order to help the hospital and medical industry and the pharmaceutical industry. They feed us addictive chemicals on purpose to enrich their wealth. They flood our communities with things that are illegal, that they've made illegal, specifically for the purpose of criminalizing us. And that's not our fault, but we do have to recognize our responsibility. We really do have to recognize our responsibility. Stop giving them your children. Stop giving them your attention. As much as we don't want to admit it, in the United States, the current administration, the current federal administration, is something that we manifested as a people. We gave that man enough attention to be where he is right now. We never turned our backs on him so that he would go away. We never pulled our attention from him in the media. We allowed him because he was entertaining for some of us. It was always something to talk about once he was up there talking. Afterward, there was always a press conference. Did you see what he said? Did you see what he did? Did you hear what he said? At what point did it become fashionable to pay attention to things that don't help, that you don't like, that are weird? At what point in our society did that become the thing to do? Our focus and our attention is our most valuable resource, and that's how they steal it. That is how they steal it. They give you enough things to talk about when those are the things that you should be taking your attention away from. I watched on social media over the past couple of days, I believe there was a big game called a Super Bowl or something, where the football players get together and have a party or whatever. So there's this thing called the halftime show. And a young man named Kendrick Lamar, who seems to be, I don't know his work a lot. I know maybe one or two songs I'm familiar with. You see this right here, right? Yeah. So he did a show during the Super Bowl halftime thing, and people are arguing online. They go, because the first comment I actually saw online regarding the halftime show was that was boring. And I was like, oh my gosh, what happened? I wonder what happened. But I don't watch football, and I'm not interested in the Super Bowl halftime show. If I see clips later, fine, but I'm not going to tune in and give my attention to it for that at all. So the first post I saw said that it was boring. And so I just waited. I said, okay, so people are going to post more stuff. And sure enough, they did. They came up with a whole bunch of, oh, y'all missed it. Y'all ain't woke. This, that, and the third. He was trying to wake people up. This represented this, and this represented that, and this represented that, and that represented this. And people are reading other people for filth. Like, yo, you missed it. Y'all talking about it was boring. You were supposed to be paying attention. Y'all ain't woke. And my question was, weren't we boycotting NFL? At what point did we decide to not boycott them? These are the same people who decided to pay black players who were injured, who had head injuries, who had concussions. They wanted to pay them less, and their argument was that black players had less mental capacity in the first place to lose. You motherfuckers sat and watched that. You can Google it. Yes, they wanted to play the black players less. They was saying that there was less mental capacity for them to lose, so they shouldn't have to pay as much. What's the young man that kneeled every time? Who was then fired and ridiculed and threatened? This young black man, and y'all still watch? And you want to read somebody else for not getting it? None of you motherfuckers got it. Because you shouldn't have been watching. Your attention should have been elsewhere. With the things going on in this country, how can we afford to be entertained right now? This is the Roman circus all over again. They build a big coliseum and let you all go in there and they'll entertain you while they rob you. And we allow it because we're entertained. Because we're going to read the other people who didn't get the message from Kendrick. Kendrick was going to get a check. It wasn't about supporting Kendrick. Kendrick got money and he was going to get a check regardless. We should have taken our attention away, and we didn't. And one young lady said, you know what? I don't watch the Super Bowl. I watch it on YouTube. I'm with you. We shouldn't pay these people who own teams. They have owners like slaves. And you watch it. You watch it still. Because they pay them well. So you don't think it matters. These are the same people that your children look up to. These are the same role models that your children are going to have, because you won't be one. I guarantee you won't. 7 out of 10 of you won't. Because you don't take the time. You think feeding a child and clothing a child and making sure they have somewhere to stay is all you have to do. That doesn't cultivate good human beings mostly. So while we argue amongst ourselves about who is more woke than the other, they're laughing at us. They know that we'll never get our shit together in enough time or ever for them to pay for the things that they have done to us in this country. There should be nobody, no person of color going to work at all. 3 days is what it should take to shut the fucking country down. Everybody should be stopped right now. Why do we continue to participate? Oh, because they have you afraid. I forgot. They have you afraid that you won't be able to feed your kids. They have you afraid that you won't be able to pay your mortgage. They have you afraid that you will lose your job and your benefits. They have you afraid that you won't be able to afford food. They have you afraid that you won't be able to afford gas. They have you afraid, they have you afraid, they have you afraid, they have you afraid, they have you afraid. Why? See, it's interesting that we don't see that they have minorities policing minorities in this country. What am I talking about? There are only a certain amount of policemen. There are only a certain amount of army people. There are only a certain amount. Yeah, they have weapons and stuff like that. What they gonna do? How much of it can they do without destroying themselves? And then the other part is the people who they are sending against you are people, are your neighbors. They're your cousins. They're your best friends. They're your bowling buddies. They're on your fantasy football team with you. They're all those same people, minorities policing minorities. And when I say minority, I'm not talking about your race or anything. I'm talking about actual numbers. There's a minority amount of them when it comes to us. The people that they would use to try and keep us in place, to keep us oppressed, to keep us repressed. That amount of people is less than us. They would have you believe that our ancestors didn't fight because they won't tell that history. They won't have you know about the deacons of defense down in Louisiana and Mississippi who, when the Klan came and they were tired, all these black men got their guns together. Listen, you're not doing it to us again. We're not taking it. And just like the Black Panthers, they want to tell these stories about how they were a terrorist group and all the rest of these things when the terrorist group was the United States of America. They're the ones who came in and killed unarmed civilians in their sleep. Because these people made the government afraid. When I see people post shit like, I ain't my ancestors. No, you're not. Your ancestors were made of sterner stuff. Just because they didn't tell you. Do you honestly expect the people who enslaved other people to tell you the truth about how they did it and why they did it and that they still want to do it? You expect them to come out and say that? When have they ever told the truth? When? When have they ever given you the full truth? When have they ever given you your just due? When have they ever said, I'm sorry? When have they ever said, yes, we were wrong? When have they ever said, we need to reparate these people? They've never said any of that. And yet we buy into their systems. We continue to go to work because you're afraid. You continue to participate in all of their systems because you are afraid. You continue to send your children into these systems because you are afraid. And that is the way that they get you. Just an FYI. And I'm not anti-children. Here's the thing. I don't think we think about it before we have kids. I really don't think most people think about it before they have kids. Because that is where they really get you with fear. A single person can survive. When you have kids, you have to do more. They're going to make sure that you are afraid that you are going to either lose your kid or lose some of the amenities that you need in order to make your kid's life better. And you are only going to focus on those things that are going to make your kid's life better. So you won't be able to fight the social injustice. You won't be able to fight the civil unrest. You won't be able to fight any of these things because you have to focus on your kid. That's how they get you. They want you having kids often and early. In this country, they've reversed the ability for a woman to make the decision to not be pregnant once she already is in many places. And you don't see? You don't see? I don't understand how you don't understand. There's a video, and I may tag the young man because I downloaded this video. It just rang so true to me. When you're trying to give a bunch of people truth and people are determined to defend the systems that are oppressing them. You defend the system that is oppressing you because somebody told you that at the end of that system is freedom. The freedom is right here when you stop believing in the systems. If you don't have proof of it in nature, you shouldn't believe it religiously. Look in nature. Nature has been here and nature proves itself over and over again. If you want to have quote unquote faith in something, look there. You won't actually have to have faith because you'll know. You'll see it and you'll know that that is how it is in nature. The fairy tales that people have been sold in this country in order for them to participate in this system are so diabolical. So diabolical. They've turned everything backwards to make, to confuse the fuck out of you. I was watching, Elizabeth. Is about Queen Elizabeth. And I'm sitting there going, she's the fucking queen. And all these men keep going, you need to take a husband. You need to take a husband. And you need to have a kid. And she's like, why? Why? I can rule. I am my father's daughter. I can rule without, I don't need a man to help me rule. And they dubbed her the Virgin Queen. I'm not marrying any of you motherfuckers. All you want is my wealth and my power. And by the time she was dead, she had expanded the empire larger than it had ever been. That's the power of a woman. You think that's the power of a man. It's the power of a woman. But they have turned it backward, taken away women's power, Y'all remember when women couldn't have credit cards in their own name? Or a checking account, a bank account at all? They had to go to their husband. A woman couldn't buy a house. She had to go to her husband. Woman couldn't own land. She had to go to her husband. You couldn't pass it on to your daughter unless she married it because it had to go to her husband. And you all still see marriage as something that's a prize. It has always been used to keep women as chattel. But they've made it look like a romantic fairy tale where some man comes and whisks you away and they love you forever and he is faithful and you have these children and you build a house together and then the kids grow up and then you have grandkids who come and visit you and how many times do you see that happen? How many? I'm not saying the fairy tale doesn't happen. I'm saying how often does it happen? It is not that should not be the goal. Yet for most people, when they get married, that is the goal. Most people, and it's interesting that beyond marriage, beyond getting married and having kids, a lot of people don't have any idea what to do with somebody else in their life after that point. Now what? We've had the kids, we've had the house, the cars. Now what? Somebody has given you the idea that you should take a hostage for the rest of your life, and you bought it. You bought into the idea that one person should experience every single change that you go through in your life chained next to you, even though they might grow in a different direction than you want to go. Your partner, spouse, husband, or wife could grow into a direction. They might want to go into astrophysics. You might want to go into farming. You might want to build a farm. They might want to build a space station. What are we doing? What are we doing? How do we come together on this? I don't think many people think about that for the span of years that it takes, that a life takes. Because you have no idea how long it's going to be. And in my last video, I said something, and I know if you watched the last video, and the part that I'm talking about is where I mentioned that I don't know if relationships should be definitively male and female in perpetuity. I look in society and I see more women who have better relationships with women than I see men who have good relationships with women and vice versa. I see more men who have better relationships with other men. It stands to reason, but we don't use reason. We use what the church and then came up with, and that is to keep you pregnant and producing other people for them to claim. That is your job. As a good Christian, as a good Muslim, as a good Jew, as a good anything, is to provide more of these motherfuckers to believe this bullshit so that we can carry it on for the rest of forever. You are a slave. And you're a breeding slave. We forget that there were there were breeding plantations where they sent people specifically to just breed. Interesting story, little sidebar, that's where the term motherfucker comes from. Because sometimes they would have a slave who was a good buck, a good, strong, young black man, and they would put a bag over his head, and they would send him in the room to have sex with somebody, and sometimes it was his mama, because she was a good, strong female, and they wanted them two to make good, strong babies. So now you got this motherfucker fucking his mother. We forget that that is who these white people are. Not all white people, but these white people. We forget that they ate us. I can't say that enough. We look to civility to people who ate us. We emulate people who ate us. We want the approval of people who ate us. We always seek the standard of them. The Emmys, the Tonys, all the rest of that stuff. We're always looking for their approval. I'm not saying that those people don't deserve those accolades. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we shouldn't seek their approval. But we do. It's always according to a white standard. It's always according to a European standard. And we allow people who use rules from 200 years, 2, 3, 4, 5, 600 years ago to tell us what to do now, even though back then it was legal to own us and kill us. But we listen to them tell us that the same rules that applied then should apply now. We don't see anything wrong with that. We don't think that rules should change with the times, with the conscience of the people. We just behold until the things that are old and the system that has been in place to keep us in place stays in place. Until we do something about it. And it's going to take something as radical as everybody just stopping. It's not about being in the street to fight. Stop! Right now, the entire 92%, everybody has said, everybody is on chill. But we need to do that more. We need to call a time and everybody stop. Because they need to see the impact. And we aren't impactful. We don't have leadership. We don't have direction. Those are two things where I miss. Then the third thing is security. We don't have leadership, direction, and security. LDS. Leadership, direction, and security. Three things we need as a community to get anywhere else. And those are things that they will concentrate on keeping out of our grasp. And we always let people infiltrate. We just watched on TikTok how Hillman Talk was what do you call it when somebody gets into the site, hacked or whatever? It was hacked because they don't want us to have anything. Historically, anytime we build communities like that, anytime we build our own communities and come together as one, historically, here come the white people, you know which ones I'm talking about, who want to take it away from us because they don't like to see us prosper, which is why I say we need security. It's not just about leadership. It's not just about direction. It's not just about having our own and doing our own thing. We need to think about security because they are serious about us not having shit. They're serious about it. And I don't know why. Yes, I do. They want us to do the menial jobs. They want us to go back to picking cotton and cleaning for them and doing all that so that they can have lives of ease. They want us to build wealth again for them. And we're doing it now. We do it now. We do it every single day, which is why we have to stop. I don't know who will ever see this video or who. Somebody who knows enough people to begin to say that this is where we need to begin. We have to stop. No more. It's not just about not going to Target or Walmart. Don't go to fucking work. We have a short window to do this because they are ready. They have pulled the trigger. They have a plan. They have a plan. And we are still trying to get together. We still trying to figure out what type of leadership we got in this country. We still trying to figure out who we can believe and who we can trust. There are some groups who are doing it. I think it's the YNs or something like that. Whoever y'all are, if y'all are who I think y'all are, good job. And anybody else who's doing that type of work, we need more of that. Active resistance. It's time. And we don't have to go out there and butt heads with the police. Stop. We have to stop. We have to stop doing the things that they want so that they can get what they want. We got to stop. I don't understand. There's no other way to say it. Because they have us doing things, and I'm going to say this, and I think this will be the last part I'm going to go on with. They have us doing things that I don't understand just to fill their pockets. I was talking to my friend earlier, and I was saying, if you buy a house here in the United States, not only are you paying the mortgage, not only are you paying the insurance, not only are you paying the taxes, but there are some people who are paying an HOA fee. How many times are they going to charge you for the same property? We live in a country that does that. We live in a country that poisons its food so that people will have to go to the hospital. We live in a country that when you die, you have to pay money. Your death isn't free. You can't even die in peace. And we haven't taken a look at that. See, when that January 6th incident, I tell people, and I say this and I repeat it again. People are like, oh, they tried to overthrow the government. The government needs to be overthrown in a certain way. I don't know. And the people who deserve to do it aren't the ones who are going to be allowed to do it, which is why they got away with it. And the other people who had been there who looked like this were arrested. It still needs to be done. If now more than ever. And I don't think we get that. I don't think we get that we have that power. We're constantly taught like, oh, it takes time to change things and you have to go through the process, and there's Congress and there's the Senate and we watched our president sign all these executive orders. Overnight, the world changed. Our world here in this country. We watched the president before them give what, $300 million to another country to continue a genocide overnight. So what do you think could happen if we did something? We could do it. There are enough of us. We need to form a strategy. You have to stop. Stop giving them your children. Stop giving them your children. To all these institutions, the educational institutions, the religious institutions, the Boy Scouts. Stop. Take your babies with you. Teach your children the joy of being in your company. Teach your children how to learn to be by your side and learn from you at the hip, like it used to be. Get out of these companies that are taking from you. A lot of us work for banks and companies that were built on the backs of slavery. Isn't it interesting that we live in a country that would allow you to work for a company that subjugated your ancestors to such brutality? And we have normalized it. We get up and go to work at Chase Bank, Bank of America. All these fucking companies that have used black bodies to gain an unimaginable wealth that hasn't filtered down. Not one fucking bit. We don't look at the hypocrisy of that. We don't look at the absurdity in our lives. That's absurd. To ask black people to work for a company that enslaved their ancestors. Not ask them, but even have it be a possibility. A lot of us don't even do our due diligence. They're sitting at their desk completely unaware. And some of them are fully aware. But they have to feed their families. There's a different way. And the other thing we have to do is learn how to think that there's a different way than the way that we've been taught. We have to open our minds to the fact that what we've been taught is just one way. There's a plethora of other ways to get through this thing we call life. It doesn't have to be the way that somebody is showing you. It doesn't have to be the way that your parents did it, or your grandparents, or the people down the street from you, or anybody in your family. You can create a whole new way to do life. A whole new way to do it. You don't have to do what they did. You don't have to. I'm going to leave you with this thought. And I hope that this opens up an idea for you. Right? This thought occurred to me the other day. I usually use ants, but I think octopus is better. We're talking about seeing and the dimensions of seeing. So you can take an octopus and you can put an octopus in a car. Right? An octopus will fit in a car. And the octopus can feel all around that car and never know the function of the car. An octopus can go in and out of the vents. It can squeeze through the pipes in the engine and come out the tailpipe and all the rest of these things and never know what the fuck the car does. The octopus can never drive the car. I don't believe you can teach an octopus to drive a car because it doesn't have bones. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, so the octopus can experience the car. and never experience it as a car? How many things do you think you walk through in life where you have no idea what the fuck the function is? How many things are you in right now where you think you see everything around you, but you really aren't? You have no way of gauging the full potential of the situation that you're in because you have no idea how all the things in the situation that you're in work. Pull back from the wall. There's more to see. And I say all that to say that when we have judgment and condemnation, please know that there's always another idea. You see somebody that's doing something that is outside what you think is normal, there's always another idea. That person is expressing another idea. You should leave them alone and enjoy the new idea that the world has presented to you. Just like when children are born. When children are born, the first thing people want to do is teach it something. The child is going to learn some shit on its own because it wants to know how you're doing that. You're walking. I need to know how to do that. So the child is going to learn how to walk. It needs to know how to grab shit because it sees you grabbing shit. So it's going to coordinate its muscles after a while to learn how to do that. But the ideas that the child comes up with shouldn't come from you. Maybe you should find out what ideas this little person has brought. Because maybe they have ideas that you and all the people that you know haven't thought of yet. Maybe you should find out, instead of trying to stuff all your bullshit in, why don't you let the person, that little person, that wonderful new person, why don't you let them tell you some things from their perspective? It's a whole new perspective. It's a perspective that's never been in this world before. So maybe you should listen to it instead of it listening to you. If you read that book at all, that Bible book that so many of you think you hold dear, there's a part in it that says, and a little child shall lead them. Or a child shall lead them, depending on which fucking translation you've gotten. But you get the idea. You're not listening to the children. All across this country, all across this world, we are not listening to the children. In Congo, they're killing children by the millions. They've killed more than 10 million Congolese. Of course, in Pakistan, it's a genocide never ending. They're raining a new type of, They're still killing them in Pakistan, but it is Russia that is raining a whole new type of weaponry down on the Ukraine. A new type of missile that can't be intercepted. That Russia has this technology is actually terrifying, but the fact that they're using it on the country next door is even worse. And we, the rest of the world, are standing by watching all of these atrocities happen. And I bet you at the end of all those wars, there's a white man. And I'm not talking about the white-skinned man, I'm talking about the idea. Again, I just want to make sure I say that in this video. At the end of all of that shit, there's a white man. Some man thinking that he needs to rule over some other shit, that he's entitled to some shit that he's not entitled to. For all of it. That's why Russia is invading Ukraine. That's why Israel is invading Pakistan. That is why the Dutch have been, I think it's the Dutch or the Danish or one of them, have been in Congo for the last few hundred years. It's always the white man trying to take some shit. And we haven't pushed back enough. And the children are the ones who suffer. Look at the lands that these children now have to inherit. What's going to happen to these children, the ones that survive anyway, because they're killing the children and women too, in Pakistan? What is that going to look like? What is it going to look like in Russia and Ukraine after Russia finishes bombing over it? In Congo, they're going to continue to strip. We have this thing called the United Nations, and I often wonder, what the fuck is their function? How are we united as nations? Allowing other nations to go in and kill people for resources, to make money. So yeah, we have to stop. It's time to think for ourselves. We have to stop buying into beliefs and ideas that other people have given us and keep the beliefs and ideas that we have wholly to ourselves. We have to just move with them. It is time to move. It isn't time to talk and tell your children. Make sure they know the stories. Make sure they know that this is something that has already gone down in history and they are trying to repeat it again. Make sure they know so that we won't have to do this again. It's interesting to me that parents say they love their children, but they won't lay their lives down for them the same way that they used to. And I'm not talking about just stopping in front of a bullet. I'm talking about you have to engage your government to make sure that your country is being run in a way that your child will be able to have a productive life. It's easy to jump in front of a bullet for a kid. It is harder to engage your government and stay on their motherfucking ass to make sure that your child has the quality of life that they deserve. We have to stop.